Good evening, family and friends. Welcome to another episode of the Empowerment Platform, where our sole focus is to empower you to reach your goals. Tonight's episode, I wanted to talk a little bit about valuing yourself, building some self confidence, and valuing yourself first. And I was kind of thinking about this. I was watching The Last Dance, Michael Jordan's story and the Bulls and the 98, 97, 98 year. And in the second episode, it was talking about, or Scottie Pippen was talking about being undervalued. He was out like the number two player at that time, Michael Jordan number one, but Scottie Pippen was number two. And he signed a long term contract, and it was for less than what he would be worth over time. So, from Scotty's perspective, he did acknowledge that, hey, I was trying to make sure my family was provided for, and I went ahead and signed the contract. It was longer term than what I guess at that time would be the norm, and for a lower amount. And the owner of the Bulls, he also mentioned that yes, Scotty did sign a longer term contract that probably wasn't in his best interest. But from my perspective is if you sign that contract, we're not renegotiating. So Scotty played all these years putting up numbers, being the number two, being Robin, so to speak, to Michael Jordan being Batman, and really being a producer, but he wasn't getting paid for it. And at that point, when there's no renegotiation, the owner or the GM or whoever else on the team, they're not going to go at bat and say, well, let me change it and do it for you. So let's talk about valuing yourself first. Oftentimes we get into situations and we do things because we either have a lower self worth, self value, or we're not confident, or we have a fear or something there that causes us to make a decision that may not be in our best interest all the time. And this applies to you whether it's business, whether you're an employee and you're going to your job every day, if it's your marriage, if it's other friendships or family relationships, if it's the relationship with your kids. If you don't self value, give yourself a worth and have a high value set, then you are at the whim of people who you are associated with. And when I think about Scottie Pippen, it's like, wow, he really was doing everything he should have been doing. He was performing, he was producing. With Michael Jordan said, without Scottie Pippen, there is no Michael Jordan at that time. He was his sidekick. He helped him win those championships, but he did not get the same level pay or what he was worth. So when you think about your life today, think about, are you being valued? And if you don't feel like you're being valued for what you produce, what you give, is it you that are you the one that's responsible or is it someone else? And I'm not saying that you go out and you create something unrealistic. You have expectations that can't be met, or you haven't put in the work and you're not producing, but I want to value myself and I want to make $1 million an hour, but I'm not producing $1 million an hour type work. So think about that. And in my life, I can remember times, and even recent, as of recent, where I didn't value what I was bringing to the table, and I allowed just me trying to get through something or me trying to help someone. I allowed them to take advantage of what I was giving, and it wasn't received in the reciprocal value, so to speak. And I can think back, especially on renovating houses, you're trying to deliver a great product for your client, and then there are things that come up in your client. Some clients do it, some don't, but there are times I can remember where I did things that were above and beyond what I should have done, and I had an expectation that the client would recognize and reward that at the end. And even in a approach or manner to say, hey, this isn't what we agreed on, this is extra, but we'll cover it on the back end. Well, I've had situations occur where when the back end came, they wanted to say, well, I thought it was included, or I don't remember talking about that, or I don't have a record of it. And so I found that in several cases, that value, had I valued myself more versus trying to please someone else, then I would have changed maybe my approach to it. Maybe I would have required more paperwork or anything else that you could think of in that nature. So, as a business owner, we'll start there. As a business owner or leader, are you being valued in your organization or by your clients? Or even if you're a business owner and you have employees, are you being valued by your employees? And you have to set that standard. Because if you don't set that standard, then they will do and say and walk over you. And again, it's not an approach to make you high and mighty, or because this is where society gets us. Sometimes we think that if we demand something or we ask for certain treatment, then people can say, well, you're acting funny or you're acting weird. And then we kind of just roll with it, or we don't fight for what we think we deserve. So if you're a business owner and you have clients, make sure that whatever product that you're producing it at a high level, and that you receive back what is equal to the value that you gave. So for business owners, don't get into situations where you're doing it to help out or you're doing it to so they can have a better experience. That's all well and good in its specific spot. If I want to deliver a premium on something because that's who I am and I don't have an expectation to receive back, then that's fine. But don't get in the habit of, well, I want to build my business, so I'm going to give more than what I'm valued. Because what's going to happen is, and it happens all the time, you never really get it back. You're giving, giving, giving in hopes of someone will recognize that you're giving and then they'll reward you. But business is business. Most people will not reward you. I mean, if you even look at the conversations that happen on Facebook or Twitter or wherever about tipping, people don't like to tip, even if they get great service. So you have to, and I don't mean it, and I don't want you to think that I'm talking everybody is not going to value you. That's not true. But I have found that in more cases than not, where I have given extra, I was not rewarded for that. And it is not just well and good, especially if you're a business owner to say, oh, well, I'll get it back next time. No. If you continue to not value yourself, people will continue to take everything that you give and not reward you. So, as a business owner, if you're delivering great value, make sure that you value yourself and that you demand. And if you don't want to use the word demand, make sure that you make your client abundantly clear and aware of what you expect in return. So that may mean you drop a contract, you write out exactly what you're going to do, and then if there's something extra that needs to be done, you get that change order or you rewrite that contract, but ensure that you're getting what you're supposed to get from it. Because if you say, if you found something wrong in their bathroom, and then you as a contractor, you need to go and fix something and that wasn't on the contract. Now you might can say, I'm going to deliver them value. I'm going to give them something and they'll remember. Will you take a risk? Just like Scotty Pippen took a risk when he accepted a long-term contract at lower pay because he wanted safety and security. But when he produced more than what that contract was worth, the owner didn't say, hey, Scotty, you're doing a great job. Let me give you some more because you are producing more than what you're actually giving more than what we're paying you for. No, they let him sit in his contract. and they let it sit until it became an issue years later. And that's because business is business. Now, you may say, okay, I don't own a business, I'm just an employee. Well, if you're doing great work for your employer, you're meeting all the milestones, you're checking all the boxes, go to your employer. There's nothing stopping you from asking for a raise. And maybe it's an out of cycle raise. All raises don't have to be on an annual basis. But if you're producing, if you're giving, if you know that you're doing your best, there's nothing wrong with asking for a raise. There's nothing wrong with putting a body of work together and saying, hey, this is what the position asked for, but this is what I'm giving. And I'm giving more value to you than what I'm receiving back. How can I go about getting a pay raise? How can I go about receiving what I'm giving back? And then your employer will have a conversation. And at that point, you have to decide based on what they say. You may get the raise or you may not. But if you don't, then you have to decide, is this worth me taking my talents to South Beach, as LeBron said? Is it worth you moving somewhere else to receive that value or that pay that you deserve? Now let's move on to husband and wife, spouse situations. If you're giving and giving and giving in a relationship and someone is taking and taking and taking, and you don't stand up for yourself, that person may just continue taking from you. And you have to look at it. The husband and wife, the spousal relationship is a servanthood relationship. Both parties should be giving to the other, desiring to meet the other's needs, wanting to do for the other person. And if you have two people that are only focused on doing for each other, whom you're both giving to one another, you're both receiving, it's a great relationship. But if you're on that side where all you do is give, think about why you're in that position. What causes you to give, and then take the response back of, well, I'm not going to give to you? Are you thinking of your self worth and value in that moment? Are you thinking about what you are giving and what you are bringing to the table? Because if you just bring to the table, but you can't receive back, and you deserve it, and you should have it, then why are you accepting that? Why are you accepting and being in a situation or a relationship where you're not getting equal return? And there are a lot of people that do it. And you hear oftentimes, well, I am trying to do this and I'm trying to do that and I want to give, but this person's just not returning that back to me. They're just not giving it back. Well, the buck has to stop with you. So what decision can you make to say, hey, listen, this is what I need in a relationship. You're not giving it to me. Why? Ask some clarifying questions. Maybe the person on the other end is actually thinking they're giving you what you need, but they're not. And you don't have to lay down or put down what you want to keep someone else happy. Happiness is a two-way street. You both deserve it. So there is no, and take this to business as well. You don't have to lay down what you want, what you deserve, because you want something or you want someone else to have a better experience. You can be a doormat in that case because now you're willing to accept treatment because you want to be a pleaser. And it's fine to give and to want to please and to want to make other people happy, but not at the expense of your own happiness. It has to be a balance. Life is all about balance. Give and take, serve, and be in conducive relationships that bring everybody up. Has to be mutually beneficial, or else why be in? with parents and kids. Some parents allow their kids to treat them different ways, to walk over them, all because of, well, I don't want to have the same relationship with my kids that I had with my parents. And so you change some things to prevent others. And then you end up hurting yourself in the long run anyway. Because maybe that toxic relationship that you're trying not to reproduce, you're right for that. But by creating and allowing other things to happen where you're not valuing yourself, you're allowing another toxic relationship to take hold. So when you think about yourself, are you valuing yourself? What is your worth? Are you confident in your abilities? How high is your self-esteem? What do you feel about you? Because we have the external factors always: pressure, peer pressure, work pressure, stress of the environment, things around us that we can't control. But the decisions that we can control, the things about us that make us who we are, oftentimes when we don't have high self-esteem and when we don't value ourselves, is because there's something that's missing and we feel like, well, I'm not adequate enough to demand someone treat me better. Or I make mistakes, so it's okay if someone treats me a certain kind of way. And then sometimes we feel like we deserve it. Well, I did this or I made this mistake in the past, so now I'm getting back what I deserve. I'm getting back the treatment I deserve. There are toxic friendships out there. I'm sure everybody knows a friendship or relationship they could think about where one friend, all they do is take from the other friends. Never bring anything to the table. Never give you back anything. And some people just downright treat other people bad. So that person who's receiving that bad treatment, the question is now why? Why accept it? Why don't you feel valued enough? Why don't you feel confident enough to command or demand better treatment? And I know a lot of times it depends on, there's some behavior tendencies of some people that are more supportive in nature and they're more emotionally invested in other people being well. But in order to treat someone well, you need to be treated well in return. You also, let me think of a good way to put it. You also deserve that well treatment and for someone to care about how you feel and what you need and if your needs are being met. Another thing, and I can think about from growing up, it took me a long time to find my own worth in myself, my own value. I always thought of value in being in groups. I wanted to be in groups. I wanted to join this organization, join that organization, be a member of this, be a member of that, to be in the collective, to be in the group, to be in the crowd. And what happened was, with my skills and talents and things that I was good at, I always listened to what someone else said that I was good at, and then I would do it. Oh, you're good at doing this, so I would do that. Oh, you're good at doing this, so I would do that. And then I can remember all the way, even in the military times, I would talk and I would do jokes, I would keep people laughing, all because I wanted to be a part of an environment. But now in life, I think back and I say, who was I then? Did I know who I was? Did I value who I was? And I can answer that with no. I didn't know, have a clue of who I wanted to be. didn't really, you know, understand or know what I like for me, not for other people, but what I just like for myself. What is the thing that I enjoy to do that didn't involve somebody else? So as we think about those questions and as we think about the examples, let's take this and make it practical. So I want you, as you listen, to think about where you rate yourself. Do I value myself? And you can rate it 1 to 10. And if you are 6 and below, take a step out and look at your life and figure out why and write it down. I encourage you to write it down and keep track. Who am I? What do I like? What does success look like to me? How do I feel if I'm being valued by an external source? Am I self-confident? What makes me happy? What makes me tick? What is my identity that is not wrapped up in somebody else? Because a lot of times we identify ourselves as what we are to other people. Well, I just work at McDonald's. I'm a McDonald's employee. I'm a mom or dad. I'm a brother or a sister. I'm a son or a daughter. I'm a husband or a wife. I'm a this. I'm that. But those things are all based on what you are to other people, to external forces, factors. So you got to think about who am I, just who am I to me? With if I'm not impacted by anybody else or the environment, who am I? Write that down. Who am I? And if you have a question mark there, you got some thinking to do. Think about who you are and what you need and what you like first. And even if you're a wife or a husband or your parent or you still got to go back. First things first. Figure out who you are. Write down your ideal life. Think about what type of value you offer, how you serve, and I think about what you want to receive in return for that. And again, as you think about it and as you brainstorm, as you write it down, make sure that you are writing down something that is proper and in line with what you are delivering. Because again, if I don't have $1 million product, I can't expect somebody to pay me $1 million for it. So have proper expectations with it. Have realistic ideas and write them down. And then in every area of your life, whichever applies to you, business, family, friends, relationships, in those things, write down for everything that I give, am I receiving back something that meets my standard of showing that I'm valued? Write it out one by one. Am I receiving back the value that I deserve, the value that I asked for, the value that I want? And you may have some yeses and you may have some nos. Now, with your no's, think about what conversation can I have with that external party to let them know that I feel undervalued for what I bring, and how can we work to, especially if you want to save and keep the relationship, what can I do or what can you do or what can we do in order for me to receive the value that I deserve? And again, as a business owner, this may be talking to your clients and saying, hey, I've been giving you impeccable service. My rates are a little too low. I'm going to raise my rates. I would still love to deliver the same value of service that I've been delivering, but I just have to make sure that I value myself and I'm getting in return what I'm putting out there. If you're a business owner and you're talking to your employees and they're asking you for a raise and you're like, oh, you don't deserve a raise, you might need to take a second look. What are you producing? And keep it in realistic and put it on paper. So there's no argument. There's no there is no guesswork in this. If a person asks you for a raise but they're not doing what is necessary to get a raise, tell them why. Give them explanation. And if you're an employee on the opposite side of the table, if you feel like you're giving more value than you're getting paid for, write down the things that you're doing. I actually took that approach myself when I was working for my company. I looked at what the position details that I'm supposed to be doing on my job, and I looked at what I was doing on my job. And then I said, this is what the position says, this is what I'm actually doing. Is there a way for me to get a raise? And I was able to work that out. I didn't go and say, hey, I just want a raise just because I'm here. I actually took a look and wrote it down and presented it. So if you're an employee and you're looking for a raise, write it down, get all your evidence and details together, show your body of work, take it to your boss. I would just like to talk about an out of cycle raise if that's possible. Especially if you get annual raises, you call it an out of cycle raise. Now, as we break down and go into more personal relationships, we talked about a couple of weeks ago hard conversations. There are people in our lives that we're connected with, or we need to strengthen the connection, or we need to reconnect. But there are people that are in relationships where it's one sided. If you did the exercise and you really wrote down your wants and needs and your requirements, now you'll have a better understanding of whether or not that person is really valuing you. And once you value yourself, you got to have that hard and difficult conversation. And it may go, hey, I just need to sit down and talk with you because, we've been together for X amount of years. These are the things that we've done. I just don't feel like I received that value back. I don't believe that you've given me what I've asked you for. And I've been taking it. And I've been trying. And for whatever reason, you still just don't give it back to me. And I need it now. And if you want to save that relationship, then you move into I'm willing to work. If you're willing to work, what can we do? Because you don't want it to be a bash. You don't want it to be harsh. I just need it. 877 cash now. When you have your settlement, but you need cash now. You call and you get that cash now because you need it. And now you're in a relationship that, hey, we've been together X amount of years and I really need this from you. What can we do to get it? And if that person is in tune and they hear you and you laid it out and they want the relationship, they'll think. It may not be immediate, but they're thinking that's okay. Let me start doing these things that are necessary. Parents, for your kids, we all go through certain situations in life and we want different a lot of times. Some people don't. Some people have great childhoods and they grow up in great families and they have issues. Every family has issues. But there are some that don't grow up in the best environment and they promise themselves that, you know what, I'm not gonna put my kids through that or and I'm not gonna do this and I'm gonna do this different. But when you're doing that, make sure that you have healed and that you have found value in yourself first. Because if you don't, you will lay down what some of what you deserve in order to create a different relationship for your kids. I can say that in my experience with this is I didn't live with my dad growing up. And so I had children. I wanted to make sure that I was around and I was available, that I just did not, they would never have to wonder where I am. But what comes with that is, okay, now it can be overdone, always there. Now I'm not doing some of the things that I should be doing for myself because I don't want my kids to say, well, my dad wasn't there. So there has to be balance. There has to be balance there. You have to really think it through. And you really have to think about why you're doing what you're doing. A lot of times we do things in a reactionary way. We're reacting whether it's to a stimulus that's happening now or to something that happened in the past. And what happens is when we react to those stories we built, those things that we reproduce, we end up bringing that into new relationships, trying to stay away from old ones, but bringing it into new ones. And we still don't value ourselves like we're supposed to. We're just reacting. I don't want this to happen to me, or I don't want this to happen to my kids, so I'm gonna create a new narrative. But that new narrative still doesn't have that value in there for you. Friendships. If you're in a friendship that's one sided, it's not a friendship. That's just somebody using the other person as much as they can. And that happens. You gotta, the phone works both ways. Who's reaching out to who all the time? If you call somebody, they're always asking for something. And of course, we have needs and things happen and life events take place. But if you always pick up the phone and they're asking for something but never bringing or never saying, hey, can I help you? Or what do you need from me? Or how is that relationship? Is it mutually beneficial? In real estate terms, when you're not when you're buying property and you're trying to make the sale and the deal mutually beneficial. Hey, I need to sell my house. I need to move. You need to buy a house because you want to move in it. It's a mutually beneficial transaction. Now, if they don't need to move and I need to move immediately and they're holding out because they want more money to prey on me having to move, then it starts to get, it's not so mutual when you feel like you had, didn't have. In negotiation tactics and tips, they always talk about negotiating to make the other party feel like they're getting the best deal and creating an environment to where that can happen. So if you're in a friendship that it's just not mutually service, it's not, why are you in that friendship? What happened in life that will cause you to accept the lower standard for yourself? What are some things that could have caused you to accept lower standards? We see it in high school relationships and college relationships too, all the time where young men and women they fall head over heels for somebody and that person doesn't treat them right at all. There's something about that relationship that they want, but it's not enough to have a higher standard for yourself. Don't let infatuation or improper feelings overrule standards. So think about that. Right now, where do I value myself today? And in all areas of my life, am I receiving and is my standard being met? And I have to take note of that as well, because I know that throughout my life, I have done things to please other people or to give a good experience, and then my standard was not met. And I dealt with it. And they have moved on to have happy, happy times. And I have been left to deal with the mess on the back end. And at the end of the day, it's my fault because I didn't create a standard that met what I should have had for value and that I didn't force it. So that is definitely something to think about as you know, and just as you think about it. Really, really try to gain an understanding. And I wonder, as you think about now you raise your standard, once we get on the back end, are you prepared to deal with some of the relationships that you might lose? Because when you raise your standard and you demand that it be met, your that you want to receive this value back and you no longer will accept anything less, prepare yourself for those who weren't right for you anyway. As you level up, there will be some people that fall off. And don't worry, because as you level up, you will gain that new type of friend or that new relationship that's on your right level. Sometimes doors are closed in our lives for the next door to be open, the better door, the one that we deserve, the one that we need. So don't worry. If you think about it, as we go through and we grow through life, we can look back on all the situations that we come across or that happen and that we get put into or that we put ourselves into. Use it as a growing tool. Look back. Don't look back in the mirror and be upset about what happened. Look back in the mirror and gain an understanding of, okay, now I see why that wasn't good for me or beneficial for me. And then move forward. And I know that it can be hard, especially when we think that something is right for us or where we want it so bad, it can be hard to let it go. Sometimes we get so wrapped up and used to situations we don't know how to deal with without having it around. And that's where it comes back into you have to be prepared to sit at the table alone. Are you prepared to eat at the table by yourself? And if so, level up, set your standards, and then push them out there. People who care and people who really want a mutual beneficial relationship, they will make the necessary adjustments and changes because they see what you bring to the table, what you provide, and it gives them, it's valuable for them. It's welcoming to them. So they're going to keep wanting it and then they're going to understand that they're going to want to reciprocate that back to you. I have a couple of good friends. If I reach out to them, see how they're doing, they're going to reach out to me, see how I'm doing. They can hold me accountable. They're trustworthy. Never ask me for anything. Those are the people that I can say, okay, our relationship is mutually beneficial. But I've also remembered friendships in the past that weren't so beneficial, where somebody's always asking for something, or there's always a problem. So with that, you just have to move forward. So, and I know that tonight, Facebook, I got a message from the streaming platform and said that you may or may not be able to comment. So if you did comment and I wasn't able to see or see your questions, when I bring Facebook up later, I'll be able to look and then I'll answer it in the chat. But I know that they were having some issues with comments and what have you. But remember, and as we start to wind it down, go back, start in the beginning. Take some time to write out everything that you want in life, write out all your relationships, and then write in each one of those, am I being valued? And if you don't know whether or not you deserve more, take some time to be alone. Pull yourself out of all external situations and take some time. And it may be at 5 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning where you can be alone and think about, who am I? What do I want for me? And then start to take your accounts of everything that's external in life and rank them. Am I being valued or am I not? Am I giving but I'm not receiving? Am I being pulled and taken from? There was an image I saw on Facebook. I can't really remember what it was, but this guy kept hugging different people, and every time he hugged somebody, they took away a little piece, but he never got any of those pieces back. And at the end, his heart was empty. And it shows that if you give, and you leave nothing for yourself, you can't survive that way. Nothing saying not to be a giver, not to be someone that serves, not to be someone that loves people and cares. You have to make sure that you're getting as well, that your tank is being refilled. Make sure that your tank is not always left empty. So write it down, think about it, and it may take you some time, but learn to value yourself. Learn to value your product. Learn to value what you bring to the table. Because if you don't value it first, then nobody else will. And you will have some expectations, some wants, some needs, some thoughts, and then they just never get met. And then you deal with it. So don't deal with it. Once you set yourself up to know this is the new me, the new standard, start to have those conversations that may not be so easy. Start to think about relationships that you may lose in order to gain. Do you want to be around 1,000 people who don't care anything about you, or do you want to be around the 10 people that really do care about you? That's there to serve you, that's there to create a mutually beneficial relationship. How many people can you call when you're in need and they'll pick up the phone? And then on the inverse, how many people can call you because there are some takers. Take, 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 take. And no matter how much you give, they will continue to take and then be upset with you when you ask for what you have given to be given back to you. Those are the type of relationships where you set a standard and then you have to kind of let it go. And it may sound different. And it can be scary because we all go through life and we try to figure out who we are and just gain an understanding and awareness of what we want in life. And it can be a journey. It's definitely a journey. But you should be looking to grow in every aspect. Level up, don't level down. Don't go backwards. Don't accept less to try to meet the needs of somebody else. For young people out there dating, going to college, keep your standards high. I remember in college, lots of people just did any old kind of thing to fit in, dropped all their standards. And after the people they wanted to be around were through using, they just kind of moved on. So think about all the situations in life where you've been used or you felt like you didn't receive what was fair. And I challenge you today to never accept that again in life. I challenge you today to get what you deserve, to value yourself first, to be self-confident, to be confident in your abilities, to know that you deliver a great product, and then demand others to see that. Hey, look, I got a great product here. Here is what it does. Here's how it can help you. Are you willing to invest in that for yourself? And leave it at that. Hey, I'm a great employee. I work really hard. This is what the job requires. This is what I do. Is there any possibility to talk about an out of cycle raise? Hey, we've been married for 15 years. You know, we've had our ups and downs. I want to move in this direction. I would like you to move in that direction with me. What can we do in order to make that happen? Hey, I grew up, I didn't have my parents in my life. I didn't have my father or my mother in my life. I don't want to create that same situation for you as your parent, but there's still going to be rules. This is the standard of the house. Let's work together to make it happen. Hey, we've been friends a long time, very long time. But in our friendship, it seems like I'm always having to give or I'm always having to do this or that for you. But when I call you, you don't never answer. You only call when you need something. You know, I do value some of the things in our friendship. I think you're a very cool person, like to hang around you, but I need to be a little bit more equal. Can we do that? Hey, X people, I'm leveling up, I'm moving forward. You know, my circle, I'm just trying to do new things. I want more than what I've been accepting in life. I have a standard now. Some things I'm just not going to do. Hope we can still hang out and be friends, or hope that our relationship can still maintain. What do you think? And that's the conversation that you have to have. And at the end, you have to be prepared for, nope, I'm not in it. Nope, I don't want to do it. Nope, that's not something that I'm willing to commit to. And then you have to say, well, you know, I do understand your perspective. I don't agree with it. And I don't think it's just compatible with where I'm going. This doesn't have to be a fight, a grudge, a negative outcome. so to speak. You if you have to let a relationship go, there is some negativity with that, but it doesn't have to be I have to hate you or be mad at you. You made a decision, and I made a decision. No one has to be mad for things that don't work out. And I think that's a little bit of the fear. And thinking back to Scottie Pippen, the story when we first started, he wanted to make sure his family was taken care of. So he signed a deal that wasn't beneficial to him long term. It fit his short term goal of making sure his family was provided for. He didn't want to play around. He didn't want to lose what he had. But it ended up just not being the best for him because he produced at a high level. And at that point, it was all business for the other side of the table because he signed a long term contract that kind of undervalued him. And they weren't really hearing the renegotiation thing. And you're stuck because he would have probably been penalized had he tried to breach the contract and go to another team before his years was up. So think when you redo this exercise, when you start from the beginning, I want you to think about, and that's why I asked to make sure you write down your goals, what you want. What would life be ideally? What is an ideal life for you? So you can start thinking about the future. I'm not sure where Scottie Pippen or how far down he thought from what he said. It just seems like he thought about the immediate. I don't want to lose this opportunity because I want to make sure my family's taken care of now. Maybe if he had or thought, and I don't know, but maybe if he thought longer term, and maybe if he said, you know what, I'm going to give this team everything I got, I'm going to produce. So I'm going to do something short term and then renegotiate where I'm at because I know I'm bringing it. I know I'm going to be giving it. So for you, whatever situation you might be in, if you know, especially if you're going into a marital situation, you know that you want to be with this person for the rest of your life, and you know you're going to serve them and give, and you're going to make those sacrifices, you're going to make changes, you're going to work, work, work. Have a conversation with that person and say, hey, look, I'm in this for the long term. I'm going to be giving. Are you going to be giving back? Because with that, sometimes there's a fear of I don't want to lose this relationship that I'm happy in at this moment. But we all know that early and beginning phase is all exciting, is happy, is great, and then you have it's the honeymoon phase, and then after that, that's when the real work begins, and then people are like, okay, what did I get myself into? But if you thought long term, you didn't think about, or you just weren't caught up in the honeymoon phase, if you were thinking, okay, I want to make sure this works 50 years down the line. This is what I'm willing to do for that. What are you willing to do? So think about it like that. You go, if you're thinking about going for another job, think about what you want long term in that job, in that career. What are you going to give? What value do you bring to the table? And when you set yourself up that way, thinking with the end in mind, you're able to set those higher standards. And you just want to accept anything that's given to you. Don't be afraid to turn down things. I was on a kind of a coaching call either last week or the week before, and we were talking about just how this season has impacted people and their jobs and their events and their gigs, but sometimes you have to lose some to gain. I may lose $10,000, $15,000 here, but I know that I bring so much value to the table when it's time to come back to pay paid gigs and debts, I'm going to get what I'm asking for. So are you going to get what you're asking for? Are you going to write out your list and then set your standards? Just ponder that in all areas of your life. Think about what you give and what you want to receive. Value yourself first. Make sure that your tank, your internal, your inside, your heart, your emotions, your spirits are filled up first. Then give. And then make sure that you receive. Because if you give and you go empty, then you're no good. Make sure that you have a high stack. If you have a product, if you have something that you're giving, if you're serving, give great service. But make sure you get in return what that service is worth. I know it has to pain and just be upsetting to great waiters, great servers, great chefs. They do an awesome job. They create an experience. They filling your drink up before it even gets to 3/4 full, and then they get a $2 tip. Now, in their case, they can demand that you give them a tip, but they can move to another restaurant that may have higher tipping people that serve a different clientele. You never know. You never know how that can work out. There's always ways. There are always ways to move and get into the right situation and scenarios that will meet your standards. So don't worry about that. And if you need help with that, as always, I'm here to be messaged, um, drop comments, DMs, anything that I can help you through this journey. If you need someone to hold you accountable for your list, I'm willing to do that as well because we have to take it serious. There's no reason to be unhappy and undervalued. Towards the end of that contract period, they said Scotty was upset, the tensions were high. Maybe he made not the best decision when he didn't get his ankle surgery, his foot surgery when he needed it. It's all different types of things that could have been different had he negotiated different and had he had more value for himself. Of course, the external world is going to bring you and toss things to you, but you don't have to accept them. I've had friends that when we're working and they get an offer for another job, and that offer is more than what they're making, but not quite what they want to make. And then they say, "Man, I should just go ahead and take it. I don't want to lose it. I got this opportunity." But it's not really what you want. So do you want to go and be stuck somewhere that you really don't want to be just because it's a little bit better than where you are? Or do you want to be patient and wait a little bit or go back to the table and say, "Hey, look, I appreciate what you offered me, but I'm looking for this and this is what I bring to the table." When people create that immense value, people will give you what you ask for. Just make sure that you're not devaluing yourself and saying, "Oh, I don't want to lose this opportunity. I'm going to go ahead and do it at X. Even though I really want X, I'm going to go ahead and do it at X because I don't want to lose the opportunity." No, stand up for where you are and say, "Hey, look, this is where I am. This is what I bring to the table. This is how I can solve your problem, your issue. This is how I can help you. This is how I can serve you." and stick to it. And be prepared to sit at that table alone for the people that are not ready to take that journey. So we hit our hour mark, family. I appreciate you for listening and tuning in as always. You could be anywhere else, but you chose to spend your time here with me. I'm forever grateful for that. And again, the empowerment platform was created to provide you the tools and information to help you reach your goals and just simply to empower you. And tonight, learning to value yourself was the topic. Once you do that, once you set a standard, once you are 100% whole internally, your whole life will change. Everything will change around you because no longer will you take anything. You will have a standard for things that you accept. Good night, and we'll see you next week.